Okay, imagine the biggest piece of real estate on the entire planet. It's dark, it's mysterious, and it's absolutely packed with valuable resources. But here's the twist. No one owns it. Or maybe everyone owns it. So who's the landlord for this huge shared property? Well, today we're going to find out.
We are talking about the deep seabed. This is the ocean floor way out beyond any country's own territory, and it covers more than half the surface of the Earth. It's this incredible world of crushing pressure, crazy temperatures, and totally unique ecosystems that, honestly, we're only just starting to wrap our heads around.
And that leads to the biggest question of all, right? When you've got potentially trillions of dollars of minerals down there, but also these fragile, ancient ecosystems hanging in the balance, who makes the rules? Who makes sure this new frontier is managed for the good of everyone, and not just, the most powerful countries?
So, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll get into the really radical idea that is the foundation for all deep-sea law. Then, we'll look at the clever deal that was designed to make sure things are fair. After that, we'll check out the environmental toolbox, take a peek inside the engine room of the organization in charge, and finally, look at what could be the unwritten final chapter.
It all kicks off with this beautiful, kind of revolutionary concept. It's an idea that totally changed how we think about the world's oceans.
This one sentence, right here, from the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, is everything. It basically says the deep seabed and all its resources belong to all of us, together. No single country can plant a flag and claim it. And to manage this common heritage, the world created a really unique organization, the International Seabed Authority, or ISA. They're our global landlords. Okay, so if the ISA is the landlord, how does it make sure all the tenants, which is all of humanity, get a fair shot? I mean, especially when some countries have way more technology and money than others. This brings us to the first big part of the ISA's job. They came up with this really clever system called the reserved area system. It works like this. A company or a country that wants to look for minerals has to propose two spots that they think are equally valuable. Then, the ISA's experts look at all their data, and they pick one of those sites. That site goes into a bank, which is reserved specifically for developing nations. The company that applied gets the other one. It's a pretty brilliant way to level the playing field.
And here's the thing, this system actually works. It's not just some idea on paper. This table shows a list of contractors that are sponsored by developing states like Tonga, Nauru, and the Cook Islands. All of them have gotten access to prime deep-sea areas through this exact system, using sites that were first identified and banked by more developed nations.
All right, so let's switch gears to the ISA's other huge job. It's not just about managing resources, it's also about making sure they fulfill their duty for the effective protection of the marine environment from harmful effects that could come from mining. And that, as you can imagine, is a massive challenge. This slide just perfectly captures the dilemma at the heart of the ISA's mission. On one hand, their job is to organize and control mineral activities for the benefit of all of us. But on the other hand, they have to protect the marine environment. So how do you balance opening up a new industrial frontier with protecting one of the last true wildernesses on Earth? Well, the ISA uses a set of special management tools to try to strike that balance.
The first and biggest tool in the toolbox is something called an API, or an Area of Particular Environmental Interest. The easiest way to think about these is like giant national parks on the deep sea floor. They are huge zones that are completely off-limits to any mining, and they're designed to protect a representative sample of the habitats and life down there. What's really cool is seeing how these APIs actually work in the real world. This right here is the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, a huge area in the Pacific that's super rich in these mineral nodules. You can see all the colorful blocks, those are the exploration contracts. But look at what's in between them. These 9 massive gray boxes. Those are the APIs. They form this whole network of protected zones right in the middle of the most commercially interesting region.
Now, the next tools are way smaller and a bit more technical. Inside their own contract areas, the miners have to set aside what are called impact and preservation reference zones. Now, their main goal isn't really protection, it's science. They're basically control sites, so scientists can compare an area being mined directly with an identical, untouched area right next door. It's like creating a before and after picture to measure the exact environmental effects.
And this simple diagram really helps you visualize it. You've got the mined area in red. Right inside it, there's a yellow square. That's the impact reference zone to see what direct contact does. And nearby, you have these green and blue squares. Those are preservation reference zones to monitor things like sediment clouds. It's basically a field laboratory thousands of meters under the sea.
So, We've seen the big principles, right? Common heritage, fairness, environmental protection. But what does the ISA actually do? Like, what's happening inside the landlord's office on any given day?
A huge chunk of the work gets done by this group, the Legal and Technical Commission, or LTC. You could think of them as the expert engine of the ISA. They review everything from annual reports and applications for new contracts to incredibly detailed environmental impact statements. They're also the ones writing the rulebooks and developing the huge regional environmental management plans that govern entire ocean basins.
But the ISA's work isn't just paperwork and rules. This number, 568, stands for something really important. It's the total number of training opportunities that contractors have had to provide for scientists and technicians from developing countries since 1994. This is a huge part of making sure the benefits of the seabed are truly shared with all of humankind, not just in money, but in knowledge and skills.
And that commitment to fairness is getting even more focused. For instance, in the training selections for 2025, they got to a nearly 50-50 gender balance. This isn't an accident. It's a direct result of the ISA's Women in Deep Sea Research project. It shows they're really making a deliberate effort to make sure everyone has a seat at the table.
And it's not just about hitting numbers either. They're running these hands-on programs like SHE, which stands for See Her Exceed. It's a mentorship program specifically designed to support and advance the careers of women experts from developing nations in all these deep-sea fields.
Okay, so let's look at how all of this is building toward the future. Because up to this very moment, everything we've talked about, every single contract, every rule, has been about one thing: exploration, just looking for minerals. But what happens when someone wants to actually start mining for real?
This right here is the most important thing to understand about where we are now. The world has a working system for deep-sea exploration. But the rules for commercial-scale exploitation, they don't exist yet. They are being negotiated as we speak at the ISA, and the talks are incredibly complicated. The really tough questions, like how much money should companies pay? Who's responsible if there's environmental damage? How are we going to inspect these operations so far from shore? All of that is still being debated.
So we have a landlord, the ISA, we have a founding principle, the common heritage of mankind, we have systems for fairness, and we have tools for environmental management. But that final chapter, the one about turning all this exploration into a global industry, well, it's still being written. The deep sea belongs to all of us. And what happens next is a decision that all 167 member states, on behalf of every single one of us, have to make. The only question left is, are we ready?